growing up, autism or being on the autism spectrum wasn't necessarily a mainstream thing as it was today. It was sort of a niche thing that I didn't necessarily know about till after graduating college. So I was normally just going through school and everything, feeling like I felt different, but not really being able to identify why I felt different. Just a lot of very unique situations that I ran across that sort of got me to this point. But then I came down here to college, and I started going to Utah Valley State College, and then around, I want to say 2010, it became UVU. And then when I graduated from college, I felt like I needed to figure out why I felt so different. So I found this place called Autism Journeys, and then they essentially said, you're on the autism spectrum, and they actually referred me first to Utah University, where I had the official diagnosis done, and then I think I messed that up a little bit, but I went there, and then I came back to Autism Journeys, and then they sort of gave me some changes and everything, and that sort of started me off to where it is I am today. I will say that I've had a very, very unique life growing up. I don't have a girlfriend yet, ladies. Sorry, I didn't mean to be handsome there, but yeah, in all seriousness, I haven't had a lot of social interactions or anything, and I haven't had a girlfriend or anything. And so I tend to look back on a lot of my previous experiences and try to learn from them and realize I'm probably going to be alive for another 80 or so years. And because of my whole college experience and everything, and just learning that going from college into just this day-to-day life, my mind is sort of just blanked out, and I have to learn these things one day at a time, and just learning how much are groceries, how much are these Cheerios, and just is it appropriate to say the word triggered, or all these very minutia things that I've still been learning about. And I think if there's one parting piece of wisdom that I have to give anybody else that is on the spectrum, keep learning. Learn about what it is you are, what it is you do on the spectrum, and just what it is you are, and just go out into the world when you are able to. Learn about the world around you, because there's only so much that playing video games can teach you. I sort of grew up in the time back in the early 90s, back when parents would say, don't play video games too long or it'll rot your brain. If anything, I think it did the opposite for me, because it started showing me the world around me. I mean, I played Mario, I played Sonic, I played Final Fantasy, Dance Dance Revolution. That is a game I really love too. And learn what you can from video games and everything, but just don't spend all of your days playing those video games, because there is only so much they can teach you. And just learn as much as you can about the real world. Learn what you can from your parents, from friends and family members, because that's how I got to where it is I am today. When I was starting in Autism Journeys and everything, one of the first experiments that Morgan had told me about, she took me to the nearby mall, and we just went to a food court in one of the alleys there. And what she had me do was just sit there and watch people walking back and forth. Watch people holding hands, and notice how this one couple is just holding their hands like this, just casually, and pay attention to everyone. And she said something to the effect of, watch how everyone's interacting here, and pay attention. This person looks upset. This person over here is maybe tired shopping with a girlfriend, or watch their posture. Are they slouching down, or do they look like they're happy to be there? Are they in a rush? That's one thing. I think for most people on the spectrum, they don't necessarily know how to interpret body language. Because if I look at you here with your legs crossed, you look a little comfortable and you don't necessarily look annoyed or anything. Somebody else on the spectrum might not necessarily know how to interpret that. They may just say, okay, you're just sitting there, you're filming me doing this interview. They just look at you and just say, okay, this is a person just doing this thing. So learn how to interpret body language, and I guess I would probably say go to a mall, just sit down in one of those couches that are there and just watch people walk by, watch for their hands, their feet, their posture, their faces, and then just keep in mind how it is they're acting, and then learn from that and just learn about, do they look annoyed? Do they look upset? Do they look happy? That's probably the best practice you can get, actually learning how to be out in the real world. People on the spectrum will tend to maybe jump to very, very different topics on occasion. They'll maybe start with the trains and maybe the conductor, maybe the food they ate, and never stay on one topic for that long of time. So again, I guess it's one of those things that I'm still learning about too, to just keep one consistent topic going in a conversation and just staying on that topic without saying, I had fries today, which reminded me my computer broke down, and then my car broke down, and then my apartment's messy, and then again, just forgetting the fact that I was originally talking about fries in a restaurant. So yeah, again, it is just one of those things that you have to learn about, and then just figuring out for you what those cues are, and then improving your life as time goes on. For me, I have a bad sense of smell and taste, and that's something I sort of had to learn and sort of get around. And I haven't had the best luck in social settings, and unless I know the people that I'm working with or the people that I'm familiar with, like friends or family, then it's this thing that I just shut down and I just don't know what to do, and maybe I'll just have my phone out the entire time. And I have no problem saying that I've had trouble going on dates and meeting other people because I just want to be in this safe place. I don't know how to interact with other people, so just having my phone out keeps me safe. Everyone on the spectrum may either have these just very individualized things. They don't like hearing redundant phrases over and over again, or they may repeat phrases over again. And something a little bit interesting too is that I actually work in a call center and I do tech support, very, very light tech support. And I actually have to work with a lot of older people that don't work with technology all that often. And so with that, I have to sometimes repeat myself 2 or 3 times to them because they don't know how to use technology that well. And it sort of gets a little bit annoying sometimes, but I've gotten used to it because I like to give them the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes I'll usually get happy or maybe grumpy people occasionally, and I can usually get around that. But there's just these people occasionally that will just want to yell at me and not accept any answer that I give them, and then not only that, blame the world's problems on me because of that. And maybe just me coming from my own specific background, but just people not wanting to listen to me is probably one of those big annoyances too. I think it's just a matter of paying close attention to the person that you suspect may be on the spectrum, and then figuring out, do they not like pancakes? Do they not like this certain TV show? Or are their bath towels not soft enough or hard enough? It's sort of a hard question to answer, but just, I think paying very close attention to the person and then again, making that very individualized plan for that person so they can better cope with any situation. Signs and symptoms, you can probably see it by a lot of people on the spectrum don't like to make eye contact for long periods of time. So they'll probably tend to look around the room a bit, or they'll probably do something with their hands. They'll be very fidgety or bounce their leg or something. It's going to be different for a lot of them, but they'll probably do something that makes them feel comfortable. They'll probably have like a toy or some sort of gadget or something to hold on to that will help them. But I know I've heard of things like Ritalin and other stuff, but I'm not necessarily an expert in the subject. But it's one of these individual sort of situations. It could be because everyone is a little bit different. It's sort of this unique diagnosis that if you meet one person on the autism spectrum, you meet one person on the autism spectrum. So a diagnosis that would be good for me wouldn't necessarily be good for somebody else. So it's sort of an individualized thing. One thing that I've tended to notice with people on the spectrum is that they tend to be very, very smart. They find like this niche subject to learn, where it be dinosaurs or trains or something. They really like to focus on that. But then also alongside that, there are some social anxieties that tend to happen, that they don't know how to interact with other people. So I think with a lot of places like this Autism Journeys place that I talked about, it's one of these safe places that they can go to where not only learn social skills, but learn how to interact with other people in a safe, protected way. To my knowledge, I'm not sure if Autism Journeys is still around, because I've tried to reach out to them a little bit. But just finding a place that can not only help you figure out whether or not you are on the spectrum, but again, finding that individualized plan, finding out what it is that you actually need. And again, it's going to be that individualized plan that's specific to that person. And I think a big one I didn't touch on yet is a sensory overload. Because like I look around here in this room and I see like these lights and all this stage setup and everything. For me, I've learned to actually be used to these lights being as big as they are, or as bright as they are. But somebody else on the spectrum might, say with like this chair or something, be like really, really uncomfortable because it feels like knives or pins in their back, and like these lights may be super, super bright or something, or there may be like some super, super smell that's in the room or something that's really, really pungent, or stuff like that I have to avoid. So just that sensory overload, they have to sort of be careful about the sights, the smells and everything. And so it's one of these things that they can just lock down, and they just don't want to do anything because it just coming in. These lights are too bright, and they can't do anything at all. I generally haven't taken a lot of medication outside of just Advil and Tylenol, because I do tend to get headaches occasionally. From what it is that I'm familiar with, autism is sort of a mental condition that sort of affects social interactions, that something isn't firing correctly in the brain that doesn't allow you to see certain things.